Okay, I think we should be on. Waiting for
It
literacy
is. It's
work.
broadcasting. I see it.
So you see it?
It just tells me we're going to YouTube.
All right. I'm looking for it here. Waiting on it. Now I know there's about a 20-second delay.
Okay.
And there we are. We are live, sir. So let me make sure I have everything together here. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Coach Talk. Steve and I are just going to get a little settled, maybe about 1 minute. Um, and then we will be all set to go. I think we're all set right now.
Okay.
So, welcome everyone to the first episode of the second season of Coach Talk. I am so happy to be back. I've been away for a while, but I'm back and I'm so elated to have the guests with me I have today. But before we talk about all of Steve's incredible feats and the knowledge that he has to share with us today, let me just, for those people who might not know who I am Melanie Matthews-Calhoun, and I am the owner and founder of the Get Engaged Coaching Group. Now, you might be a little thinking like, okay, this is over on Literacy at Work. Yes, Literacy at Work is still my company. I am also operating the Get Engaged Coaching Group. So, as you probably remember me from Literacy at Work, I am still Literacy at Work. I'm just doing a lot of my interactions with schools and districts now as the Get Engaged Coaching Group. So, I have been in this wonderful game of education for about 28 years, and it just seems so hard to believe it's been 28 years. I'm like, man, where did the time go? I have students who are just so grown with families. I'm like, what? How did you grow up so quickly? So, so I've been in education for 28 years and I've been in the instructional coaching slash consulting role for about 18 of those 28 years. And I absolutely love it here. I started doing what I'm doing here, about 16 years ago. And again, I absolutely love it here. I have a couple of platforms. One of them is Coach Academy, where you can find a lot of good coaching things, a lot of good stuff for coaches. Go to Coach Academy, check out Foundations, and you will see a lot of free things there. And I am also the creator and host of the Get Engaged Coaching Conference, which I launched this year. It'll be July 9th and 10th. Um, and it's a 2 day conference. Formerly, I had the Mind Your Coaching Institute. I paused that. That's not going anywhere because I'm redeveloping that. So, no fears. We still have the Mind Your Coaching Institute. And I am also the author of 3 books: The Formula, 101 Must Have Forms for Instructional Coaches, The Productive Coach, which is a habit tracking journal, and Inside Instructional Coaching, which is a primer for those who are interested as aspiring coaches. That's the book that you should get. So I want to again welcome you to Coach Talk, where we have real conversations for real coaches. Now, let me get into our guest here. We have Mr. Steve Ventura, who is the founder and president of Advanced Collaborative Solutions, a movement dedicated to empowering educators and students through collaboration, innovation, and impactful professional learning. With a vision of ensuring every child, regardless of background, has access to highly effective teachers and leaders, Steve provides practical, research based strategies to drive meaningful change in education. He's a dynamic and motivational speaker, and his leadership insights have influenced countless of educators through his keynote presentations, which I am privy to have witnessed that firsthand, professional development, and national conferences. So, Steve is also the author of several books. One of those books is Achievement Teams: How a Better Approach to PLCs Can Improve Student Outcomes and Teacher Efficacy, which is right here. I have a couple copies, as a matter of fact. I think that you should get your own because I'm using this currently with the PLCs where I work. But his most recent book is an ASCD publication, which is Improving Instruction Together, Leading Achievement Teams and PLCs. I don't have my hands on that yet because it's not yet out. It comes out this summer. 25 it comes out. So I can't wait to get my hands on that either. So through real world experience, humor and a deep commitment to educational excellence, Steve continues to inspire educators like myself nationwide to pursue high impact implementation with focus, rigor, and clarity. Welcome, Steve.
Hello, Melanie. Wow, this better be good. That was quite an introduction. I hope nobody can. This is a delight for me to be with you. I remember how we met. I remember finding you somehow on just social media and then following you, thought you were
Hmm.
fascinating. And then I knew who you were straight away the first time we ran into each other last summer or the summer
Yeah.
before. And I was like, oh, this is one of the people that I follow that's always doing something really compelling. And so I'm delighted that you invited me to talk with you for a little bit. I hope you're doing well.
Thank you. I am. And I was, just starstruck when I saw you. I'm like, oh, this is Steve. I have to sit in and listen to my guy. I have to sit in and listen to him. So I was just absolutely in awe when I met you. And I've been privileged to have you as a friend since then. So thank you for
Great.
being a part of my friendship circle.
Um, but likewise.
So before we get into improving instruction together, your newest book, I just want you to start with your story. What led you into the world of instructional coaching and leadership?
God, it's a good one. And it's funny because I started off as an administrator when I was not ready. You know how you always aspire for the next role, the next position. And I was always applying and looking for something else. Well, when I finally got my first principalship, I couldn't believe
Hmm.
it. It was I wanted to ask these people who hired me, are you sure you did your background checks yet? Because you just offered me this job. And so I'm going to tell you what honestly I did, Melanie. Only stayed with what I was good at, which was
Hmm.
building relationships, being visible, and trying to get everything everybody needed. What I stayed away from was instructional leadership and coaching because I had no confidence there.
Hmm.
So I didn't learn that until later on when I was a superintendent in California. Like, an instructional leader doesn't just sit on the sidelines with this vision. They have to be with everybody and work side to side with them. And then I started doing more research and writing. And then I was so delighted. Like my last 3 years of leadership in public schools was the model that I wanted to live. That was the way I
Hmm.
wanted. I wanted to get out in front and live the culture I was asking everybody else to live. And so I
Hmm.
finally became the leader that I wanted to be, which was around instruction and what works best in the classrooms. And so that was it. I felt like my first couple of years, I just was not, I had no leadership focus yet. And then
Hmm.
coaching, of course, I'm a former physical education teacher and coach. Of course, coaching just goes super well with, my background. So that's a
Hmm.
quick story.
And I like to ask that question because sometimes the route to coaching and leadership isn't a direct route. Like some people happen to learn about coaching and leadership opportunities and they go from there, but it was never their intention when they first started education to be in such a leadership position or a leadership role. And that's pretty much how I started. Like I never dreamed of being in a leadership position. When I thought of leadership, I automatically thought of principalships, like
Yeah,
building leadership. And I knew that that was something that I wasn't interested in, not because I didn't admire what they did, it's because I saw the amount of work that building principals put in. And I'm like, whoa, that's a lot.
it is
Uh,
well.
but I as when I found out about this instructional or literacy coaching, which is how I first started, that's what propelled me to continue along this track in taking a leadership role and helping my peers. That's where I get the most joy is when I help my peers fulfill their missions, their educational goals, their professional goals, and to see it come to life. And to also be that partner, like you were saying, being in partnership with
Mhm.
people is what really tickles my fancy. So that's where I am with that.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested because again, this book doesn't drop until a couple of months. And I'm really interested in what this book is about, improving instruction together, how educational leaders, both coaches and administrators, can really utilize this resource. Go ahead and tell us about it. I'm all ears.
I'm thrilled about it too. This is one of these things like I had you were so gracious to show my first book. And this is everything I didn't get in that first book. Like I
Mm,
after the book got published the first time, I'm like, oh, there was so much I wanted to do around leadership. And I only wrote one chapter of leadership in the first book. And now I have
hmm
8 chapters about leadership.
Wow.
And one of the things I discovered, Melanie, when I started becoming a little more savvy about school leadership, or even when I started presenting around the country, is how misappropriated and misused coaches were being used in
Mm,
I worked at, where they weren't actually doing micro teaching, they weren't doing learning labs, they weren't actually
hmm
improving learning attitudes of teachers. They were doing busy work and paperwork, and they were super subs or they covered
mm,
for teachers. And I was like, wow, this is not anything I read from Jim Knight, from Joanne K
hmm
or Joel and Killian, from all the other, Steve Barkley. All of their stuff was never even mentioned that coaches are this universal position that are supposed to cover so
hmm
many things. So when I started writing this book, I dedicated one chapter to teaching behaviors and effect sizes and how coaches can improve that. And it was an amazing discovery about how coaching could really improve collective efficacy, collective intelligence, and the way teams actually collaborate together. I discovered
hmm
that coaches can improve learning attitudes, the self-efficacy beliefs of teachers. They can help teachers acquire more skills. The acquisition is there and improve the
hmm
teaching practice. Those 4 things alone, if a
mm,
coach could do those things while they were helping with PLCs, I think would have a tremendous impact on the culture of a school
hmm
and the culture of what instructional coaches really do. Because I believe that that's what coaches want to do, Melanie. You know this,
hmm
and they don't get a chance to do it. Not,
So name those four things again so
it
they
was
can really hone in on these. What are those four
yeah.
things?
One was improving, coaches can literally improve learning attitudes with teachers. And
hmm
that means that it can take on a number of different forms. Like they can, help teachers prioritize what they need to do the most. They can help teachers reflect on their practice. They can help teachers look at prior experiences and see where they were successful. It helps with the learning experience or the learning attitudes. And
hmm
that's why I wrote about that because it helps teachers shift their perspective, Melanie, and realizes their full potential. So coaches have the ability to improve the attitude of the
hmm
teachers they're coaching. And I mean, there was some really interesting things that I discovered. Like, you could have what I like coaches, what I like to see them doing is like, hey, listen, Melanie, how about if I teach and you observe me, or you
hmm
teach and I'll observe you, or you teach part of the lesson and I'll do part of the lesson.
hmm
And one of those things, like that's engaging and learning. It provides feedback to the teacher. So I thought that what a great thing to like write about is how coaches improve learning attitudes. By the way, the effect size for that was 0.41 from the
mm
visible learning research. So I started looking at what did John Hattie say about the possibilities of instructional coaching. And as I
hmm
mentioned before, the other 3 was coaches can help teachers believe in their own ability by increasing their self-efficacy. They
Okay.
also show them how to acquire more instructional strategies and skill. And then
hmm
finally, they can help them improve their own teaching practice. And again, to me, like, wow, those are 4 things that should
hmm
be a clear roadmap for people like you and me to help other people understand
hmm
that do all these things and they're not that difficult. So that's a little bit behind the coaching motivation for me, uh,
hmm
because I think that you watch a coach, Melanie, and I've seen them do this with teachers. Once a coach starts working with a teacher seems to be more open to new ideas and trying new things and taking risks. They're less critical of kids when they make a mistake because
hmm
they just have this belief and this improved attitude. And teachers who are coached really well refer fewer students to special ed.
mm
So, and you know why? Because they feel like they have the
hmm
confidence now
Yes.
to handle that. So I don't want to keep droning on here, but it's just such an exciting thing for me to share with you.
No, and it's important because it shows how when you have the right relationship with teachers, how you can really influence, because sometimes teachers are in a world of their own and they have other things that they may be dealing with.
Hmm.
But when you have that right relationship with teachers, you can really get them to move mountains.
Oh yeah.
But they have to open up, and we know as coaches, they have to trust you a little bit in order for you, to help move those mountains. But teachers have so much, that self-efficacy piece is so important because we have to build that in order for them to believe that they
Yeah.
can. It's almost like that skill and will spectrum. Some teachers have high skill, but little will to do it.
Hmm.
Those are the teachers that I'm interested in. Okay, you have the capacity, you have the ability, but what's keeping you from being all that you can be, so to speak?
Yeah.
What is that? And I like to get into those little messy spaces and figure that out. That's what I love to do. I love to get in there and figure it out.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I feel like the untapped potential of instructional coaches is just waiting for a principal to understand this and then
Mm-hmm.
rearrange even their own self-reflection or review themselves and self-reflect, how am I really maximizing an instructional coach's ability? And so this the things that I wrote about in the new book were about how coaches improve teaching practices, but principals have to give them the space to be able to do that. They're like on-site professional developers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they should be showing and modeling instructional strategies that have very high impact to
Mm-hmm.
double your progress. And then, we were talking about doing this in the Learning Lab chapter that we put in there, but, watching teachers teach 5 or 6 kids for 10 or 15 minutes
Mm-hmm.
using a strategy they've never tried before, Melanie, then
Mm-hmm.
getting the feedback from other teachers and coaches, and then turning around and then doing that whole strategy again with the entire class.
Yeah.
So there's that is a feedback loop you cannot beat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, those are some of the things that we were thinking, like, how can coaches, and every time I talk about coach, I'm really talking about a leader, because that's really what this book is for.
Yeah.
I think the title isn't misleading at all, because in the preface it says this book is for lead teachers, coaches, principals, superintendents, and it really
Mm-hmm.
is a roadmap to introduce high yield coaching. And I'm not pretending that I'm a Jim Knight or anybody else, but I do know.
But you're a Stephen Tour, sir.
Sure, yeah.
That's who you
But
are.
but I've read a lot and I've seen a lot. And I feel like there are so many things that teachers are frustrated with in terms of student effort and outcome. And if they just
Mm-hmm.
had a little bit of coaching, they would go home with lower blood pressure, because
Mm-hmm.
they know that there are things out there that work and they just
Mm-hmm.
need to take a risk and try them. And I think that's what coaches can help teachers do.
Yeah, and I like that you are speaking on behalf of coaches with sharing what they can do because you bring a different perspective. You bring a multifaceted perspective as being a teacher, were you a principal at one time?
Oh yeah.
Being an assistant superintendent. So you have those lenses of which you saw instructional coaching happening at each of those levels and having a different type of interaction with instructional coaching.
Yeah. I mean, you can see in coaches, I like the whole co-coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like, you're familiar with this, but I started reading more about it. Like, how amazing would it be if teachers watched coaches model strategies that are high yield, high impact,
Mm-hmm.
and then the next time the teacher tries that with the coach, and then the third time they do half the lesson. I mean,
Yeah.
talk about they're identifying, they're learning, and they're improving. There's
Mm-hmm.
3 stages that really come about with this, and so I just feel like collaboration is a place where people can share their collective intelligence and their
Mm-hmm.
master experiences, and I think coaches can bring that out. I really specifically wrote that coach's job isn't to facilitate a PLC. Their job isn't to show everybody else how to do a PLC. Their job is there to support the strategies that the teachers select in the PLC.
And I'm glad that you started going down that path because that's exactly what I was going to ask you next. What do you see an instructional coach's role being in a PLC? Because I've seen so many coaches come in and do just that. They're the facilitators of the PLC. If they have enough time, they run these elaborate PD sessions during the PLC. So, what is it exactly our coach is supposed to do in a PLC?
A lot. I think they can help co-construct and co-create instructional strategies.
Mm-hmm.
That they could help teachers write learning intentions and success criteria. That's an
Mm-hmm.
amazing opportunity for both. They could ask really good questions with great questioning techniques. You know this,
Mm-hmm.
from speculative questions all the way to investigative questions. And I think that when we do this, they help teachers reflect more deeply about their own impact in the classroom. Because I think
Mm-hmm.
if teachers give an assessment and they're not very happy with the results, then those results should reflect the teacher's effort more than the student's effort,
Yes.
as
Mm-hmm.
results came from somewhere. So I think coaches could be doing a lot of these things. I also know that they can use PLC time to model what a PLC looks like, but then
Mm-hmm.
they have to step back and somebody else, a teacher facilitates that. And then a coach is part of that whole support system where I've got some ideas, show me your data. Here's a
Mm-hmm.
strategy that matches that gap. Let me tell you a little bit more about it. That's where
Mm-hmm.
really come into place. Like again, like metacognition, learning intentions and success criteria, the jigsaw method, all these things
Mm-hmm.
coaches should be experts at. And then
Mm-hmm.
teachers understand. Because you'd be surprised, Melanie, how many teacher teams I work with who've not heard a lot of contemporary instructional strategy. They just don't have
Wow.
time. They're so busy, they don't have time to read about it, learn about it. And so, you can't prepare today's kids for tomorrow's world if you
Mm-hmm.
use yesterday's practice. So we
Mm-hmm.
have to like get people, coming together and using, some of these more contemporary strategies. I think coaches are terrific at that. They're usually motivated to learn that way anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it's the PLCs have taken, from what I've seen, a turn into something else. But I'm glad that you're in your book addressing this, and even in the last book, but this one more so, that you're addressing exactly what instructional coaches
Yeah.
do, and that's to provide those strategies. You've heard, or people have heard time and time again, that some people think of instructional coaches of being the expert in all areas. And it's not really necessarily that. It's just that they know how to get those resources and they do have expertise. But the expertise doesn't all lie in the content all the time. Because when
Mm.
you're an instructional coach, you have these instructional strategies that you can utilize with teachers in whatever content area. So,
You you just crushed it because I had actually wrote I've seen this in several different studies. Having high content knowledge, like knowing your content really well,
mm-hmm,
doesn't always transfer to master teaching. You can know everything you need to know about math,
mm-hmm,
English language arts, but it doesn't automatically make you a master teacher. There's other elements that help bring
mm-hmm,
that knowledge out. But Billy, I always tell principals, why are you so afraid to make suggestions to teachers about teaching? And they say, because I'm not a content expert. I don't teach that subject. I'm like, that
yeah,
is relevant. What you're showing them to do is like, these are the strategies out there that you could recommend.
mm-hmm,
And many of them are supplemental strategies. They're content blind, which means that you can use them in several different areas. And you don't have to be an expert on teaching algebra 2.
that's right.
You should be an expert on knowing the difference between surface, deep, and transfer instruction. I mean, there's so many things leaders can do, but they're so shy. I was one of them,
Mm-hmm.
Melanie. I stayed at it because I thought I was an imposter. And then I
Oh
met you.
no, not imposter
Like,
syndrome.
what's that?
Not imposter syndrome. You suffer from that?
Oh yeah. When I
I would have
first,
never thought.
yes. And I just felt like later on, as I grew a little bit more and more confident, and the more I started researching and reading, I discovered, wow, there's so many different assumptions people make about teaching,
Mm-hmm.
learning, and leadership. And if you had the time to, go a little deeper like you have, you'll see that um, a coach just has an amazing opportunity to build the capacity of a lot of teachers. It's
Mm-hmm.
unfortunate some teachers don't want to be coached. Um, and I wish I had one when I was a new teacher. I can tell you that
Me
it wasn't
too.
trending. It wasn't
Absolutely.
trending when I got into it. I'm like, and I was a PE teacher. I could have used a coach.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I needed a lot of coaching in that area.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think that we're in a new realm where um, coaches really are looked upon as the go-to people. And it's funny because some states use them better than others. And you've traveled around
Yes.
a bit. I can
Yep.
tell you the state of Texas. instructional coaches in Texas, because you were there with me,
Mm-hmm.
they are valued.
Mm-hmm.
They don't do any other little side jobs. They
Mm-hmm.
are full day instructionally coaching. It's
Yeah.
amazing. Now, in
And
my
you're
home
so
state,
right.
California, hey, if you get the title instructional coach, you could be writing a grant for Title One.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Mm-hmm. And that's so true. And I noticed that going around the country too, is, I was so fortunate to be raised in a culture of coaching, true coaching, because I know in Michigan, especially in my area, coaches are coaches. And that's what we do. We are not substitute teachers. We don't write grants, and so when you're in that environment where you feel like you're valued and you're learning something, that's what makes all the difference in the world. I think, and I hope I'm not stepping on anyone's toes, but I think when you've divided the time of coaching so that they are now these hybrid positions, they might be the interventionist and the coach, or halftime this, halftime that. And I understand, where the thought might be some coaching is better than no coaching, but how effective is that? You always have to think of the effectiveness of the support being provided. And is that translating into the data? Do we see it in the classrooms? Do we see
mhm,
it? And so I worry about coaching when it's looked upon in that manner. And like you said, doing all of the extra things, proctoring all of the tests and, just
yeah.
everything that's kind of like outside the realm of coaching. And if the nation could get coaching like Texas has it.
The coaching in Texas is amazing. I also heard this wonderful quote. I wrote about it in my book from Steve Barkley, because Steve Barkley was there last summer when you and I were together.
Yes.
And Steve said that there's two types of, you know, um, professional communities. One is a professional working community where teachers need to be just left alone a little bit, get their work
Mm-hmm.
done, and how they want to do that. Then there's the professional learning community. He says the one thing teachers need to ask themselves every time they meet as a PLC is, by the end of this meeting, what do our students need us to learn before we go back out? I'm like, boy, Steve, I've been trying to say that in 170 pages.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I was like, can I have that? And he's like, yeah, go ahead and use that. He's so brilliant. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought the book has that kind of underlining emphasis as well. Like, what do our kids need us to learn if we're actually going to be a community of learners? And then that means that we can't reteach the old stuff or speak, lower and slower or whatever, but
Mm-hmm.
we need to get back out and do things that really make a difference. And that means maybe trying something that we're not very comfortable with, but we're willing to practice it. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and speaking of being willing to practice something, um, think back to yourself. Just think of yourself. What's a mindset shift or an aha moment that changed how you coach or lead?
I think for me, Melanie, like how I changed was literally learning with teachers instead of sponsoring learning for them. And
Ooh.
so when I used to be a new administrator, I'd bring in the PD and then I would
Mm-hmm.
say, I didn't say it out loud, but the body language is there like, well, if you need me, I'll be in my office. I didn't feel like I need to be sitting on that. It turns out that leaders who actually learn alongside their teachers
Mm-hmm.
have a huge impact on instruction and improving instruction as opposed to just sponsoring that learning for them. Plus, the body language isn't very positive either. Like, what does that say to a room full of people when the
Yeah.
superintendent or the principal leaves the room during a really important time and the teacher
Mm-hmm.
has to try something, do or exert more efforts? So a big aha for me was
Mm-hmm.
when people saw me learning with them, they knew that I was in it as well. And then
Yeah,
we
and
had
it,
a
it
much better chance.
matters. It matters so much because I still hear that now, wherever I am, if only the principal were here, if only, and that is the truth because as I'm thinking back to being a teacher now, when I saw my principal partaking in the learning exercises, that meant the world to me because I figured if he was vested, I need to be vested too. If he had all of his eggs in the basket, I need to put mine there too because he led by example in terms of what a true instructional leader should be doing.
Mhm.
And being alongside me, sitting right next to me, learning along with me, participating in the activities, that meant a lot. And I
Terrific. It
still hear
always
teachers say that today.
they do. And now when I get people that ask me to come work with them,
Mm-hmm.
especially if it's a building principal, I usually ask now, where will you be if I come?
Mm,
And I just have to gently challenge them and say, I really need you in the front row with your
mm-hmm.
laptop closed. And I need you to
None of
demonstrate.
this.
Yeah, you need to demonstrate the learning and body language that you want everybody else to do in that training. And then please say something. You can interrupt me anytime you want and say, this is what Steve means, or this is what it looks like in our own culture.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in our own building. And so that was a big one for me, Melanie. You can see that I would love 1,000 do-overs when I was a new administrator and a teacher. And
Mm-hmm.
one of them was really understanding that and the effect that a leader has learning with teachers and coaches is extremely probable in terms of doubling the speed of progress. So I feel like that was
Mm-hmm.
a big takeaway for me. And then I wrote about it because it was easy for me to say I didn't do this
Yes.
until later, not the whole time, but later on towards the end. Then I figured it out.
That's okay because you're a learner, right? I mean, you had to the bad part would have been you never figuring it out and you being stuck where you are. That would have been
Yeah,
the bad part. So
yeah.
you evolved as an educator, which is what we're supposed to do. I wish I could go back and redo some things.
Oh, me too.
Like I'm like, man, my first couple bunches of first graders, if I knew then what I know now, OMG. So, but the important thing that is the evolution of your learning in this profession. And that's the important part. That's the
Yeah,
biggest takeaway is how have you changed? How have you learned to not only become a better person, but in order to help inspire, support, motivate those other people.
yeah. I think the other thing I used to worry about is not having 100% buy-in. And then
Oh
I would
yeah.
wait, I would wait until I had it, which it never happened because I
Mm-hmm.
always had about 10% of the people always making noise to me, like why they didn't want to do it. And then I finally discovered sometimes the loudest barks don't always come from the smartest dogs. I need to
Ooh.
start looking at another place and focusing in and, paying attention to the 85% that are with me.
Mm-hmm.
We got to start moving forward. So it was another lesson I learned. Like I just could not stop
Yeah.
thinking about some people who weren't doing things the way they should have been done.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to let that go, Melanie. We had to, progress is progress, and we made a lot.
Yes.
So always trying to tell my leadership friends, stop focusing on that 5 or 6 or 7% of people that really don't get it yet. It's not that they're not bad people. They
Mm-hmm.
just you haven't made a compelling case to them about why they
Mm-hmm.
should be changing. So
Yeah. And that buy-in and ownership is important. But like you said, if you have 10% of the teachers who are just not on the bandwagon yet, you can't keep the 90% back,
no,
because they're ready to go. And so the others are either going to catch up or they're going to fall off.
yeah.
So
Well, and I think this is an empathy issue because when I was younger, I would become very impatient and want to blame, like, well, you really don't want to do this. What's your problem? I think what you're dealing with is people who don't understand how to improve and they don't know if they can do it, just like I didn't know how to be a better leader. So I have
mm-hmm.
a lot more empathy for people who are resisting, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't let the most resistant people become the most important people because sometimes
Oh,
they want
I
to do
love
that.
that. Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to focus on and take care of the people that are willing to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
So again, that's not a negative statement to me at all. I just can't.
Yeah.
I just have to understand that if you're resistant and you want to be extremely important, that won't work for me. I think
Mm-hmm.
important people are the ones that are looking to improve practice. And so, yeah, I learned a lot. Couldn't you tell?
Yeah. And then if for coaches, like it's the same scenario, coaches, but it's on a different plane because you will have teacher resistance where you are.
Yeah,
And how you start, this is what I do, and it works, is that you start with those who are willing and you start from their strengths. And
Hmm.
that's how you get the momentum going because the same as with coaching, unless the coaching program is mandated by the district, you will have a lot of teacher pushback. And it's okay. Don't think it's about you because it's not. It's okay. But work with the willing and you make your impact there. You start the ball rolling there because teachers do talk. And when they see that you are making an impact with their colleagues, then they'll come along too. I've had that, and I'm not just saying that because I'm saying it because it has happened to me. It has
Yeah,
happened to me.
yeah. Well, I feel like, in some of the book deals with how to improve the culture in the building. And I tell some of my leadership friends that are really frustrated, I tell them, listen, you get the culture you deserve.
Hmm.
You have to look at something. Don't bring me in for professional development yet until your culture is ready to receive
Yeah.
it, as it'll fall on deaf ears.
Hmm.
And then we kind of, the conversation shifts about how to improve a culture that's ready to receive new learning, but not just
Hmm.
mandating new learning because the culture isn't ready for that yet. And I think those are some of the things that we have to learn with principals and the way they use instructional coaches. Like the table has to be set, the conditions have to be good for this to
Hmm.
happen. Principal is the person responsible for making that happen, I believe, in
Hmm.
terms of how coaches are viewed and how they're used and how the principal supports them. So, or the district, however it should be. But I feel like I think a leadership vision with improvement on culture makes all of this work really well. In fact, I tell some of the principals like, well, what, Steve, like culture is not that great here. And I'm like, well, I can tell you one of the things that really improves culture is labor peace. Like figure out
Hmm.
how we can
Hmm.
get that going. And once you have that, you can do anything you want. So
Yeah.
first start off with labor peace, then you can start focusing on productivity and improvement.
Yes.
But I think that some people just don't have that yet. And principals aren't in charge of labor peace, but I mean, there's got to be
Hmm.
some sort of you know um,
Hmm.
that. But I think I think there's so many things principals could be doing to actually become really good coaches themselves and really help coaches be the most contemporary people in the building in terms of turning things around because they can do
Yeah.
it. I mean, look at you. I mean, most coaches want to go. It's in their DNA. They just want to show people we can do this together and I'll show
Hmm.
you. So I feel like that was one of the main things I was trying to capture in this new book about how we can really look at instructional leaders
Hmm.
as more than just a manager of the building, but the person that really understands how to get a group of people moving forward. And
Yeah.
I think it's instructional leadership because I didn't have it, and now I'm here. I am. I felt like it's taken me a while to say, but this is what it should look like. So
Yeah. But
yeah,
it's here and you're giving it to us from
yeah,
all of
yeah,
your expertise and your experience that you have had, providing keynote speeches and professional development in districts around the country. We need people like you to put it together, encapsulate that learning, that experience, and share your blueprint with us so that we can see what you've done and maybe replicate it in our district. So we thank
yeah.
people like you for taking all of that experience and putting it together for us to.
Hey, as soon as that new book hits, Melanie, I'll make sure you get one because I want it right behind you where it says the Formula 101. I want it right next to that book.
You got it.
Yeah.
Look, your wish is my command. So next time we're on, watch, it's going to be back there.
I'm just teasing you. I got it. We it'll be coming out August 6th officially from ASCD. And so I know that the typeset pages are finalized and it's looking really good, but I think you'll like it. I would love for your feedback too.
Okay,
So
yeah, absolutely.
yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now
So,
you know how to do that. So
yes. Yes, I feel like an expert sometimes. Depends on the day. Uh, so let's wrap this up with a speed round. So I have 5 questions, just a lightning round.
okay.
And whatever comes to the top of your head, then that's what we're going to go with.
All right.
So, are you ready?
A
Drum
little
roll.
nervous. Go ahead.
Don't be nervous. Okay, here we go. Question number one. Coffee or tea while coaching?
Coffee,
All right. Walkthroughs or planning meetings? What's your favorite and why?
planning. Planning because I think it makes the walkthroughs more effective.
Oh, I like. Okay. What's your go-to hype song before a tough coaching conversation?
Rocky.
Hey.
I am the
One
tiger.
one word that describes your coaching style or leadership style.
Involved.
Okay. What's your coaching or leadership superpower?
Relationships.
Ooh, I like it. See, that wasn't hard. That's it.
I
That's
wasn't
the lightning round.
felt good about those.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Was it difficult? So I want to thank you. I'm not closing out just yet, but I do want to thank you for coming on and sharing your new publication with us because I feel that that's something that every coach and leader should have in their hands, especially when you're talking about building a collaborative community via PLCs and what that should look like, how it should sound, and what needs to be done. So I thank you for bringing that to us. And people, he's brought it forward. Get ready. August 6th is when you can grab your copy. So before we head out of here, what's one message you wish every instructional coach or instructional leader could hear loud and clear?
I think if your presence doesn't add value, your absence will never make a difference.
Okay, don't be surprised if you see that quote on Instagram. I will give you all the credit. I like that.
Yeah,
That's powerful.
integrity, consistency, and ability all day long,
Integrity, consistency, and ability.
all day long.
If you have not written this down, people, you need to write it down, put it in your planner, wherever you frequent, your calendar, put it there because that's powerful. So, how can the viewers connect with you? Where can you be found? How can they get you to their location? Spill the tea.
Just my website is just steveventura.com. And then you can poke around. There's so many free resources on there. People can get all the stuff that we do. We have instructional strategy flip books there, lots of really great tools to use. But it's just steveventura.com. I usually
Mhm,
on social media like LinkedIn, X or Twitter, Instagram, I'm active and I'm usually posting where I've been or where I've headed.
mhm.
But I think the website should serve pretty good foundation about what we do and where we're going to be at and what the company's all about. So yeah, they can find me. Just search for Steve Ventura how to work.
Yeah, and do it, people. Do it. He's phenomenal. Thank you so much, Steve, for joining us this evening on Coach Talk, our first guest of the second season. I was so thrilled to have you here tonight, and I am looking forward to other conversations with you.
Yeah.
It's always a thrill, always a pleasure. Thank you, my
Yeah,
friend.
my friend, I hope I see you soon too. So let's continue to stay in touch and then maybe we can collaborate together one day. That would be fun.
Yes, I'm always down for a good collaboration.
Yeah.
We're better together.
Yes. Thanks, Melanie. Luck to you too.
Thank you. Thank you all. Have a good evening, and we will see you on the next episode of Coach Talk. Thank you.